My very first guest, Kevin Derrick. He's an award-winning filmmaker who's worked on a dozen films and documentaries as a producer, director, and editor through his company, Love Project Films. At the age of 20, he produced his first movie, and he also holds 3 black belts. And with the love of martial arts, he's produced numerous documentaries on the subject. One of them was The Real Miyagi, which played on Netflix about the greatest karate master of our generation, featuring interviews with Steven Seagal, Dolph Lundgren, and Michael Jai White. He's currently wrapping up his latest documentary, Pat Morita, Long Story Short, about the life of Pat Morita, who played Mr. Miyagi in the Karate Kid franchise. He also founded the Irvine International Film Festival in 2012. He's the only man I know with 2 first names. Welcome, Kevin Derrick.
Hey, Joe, how are you? Thanks for having me. This is awesome. I've never done a live interview before, but let's give it a shot and see what happens.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. And I really just want to start with a light subject. I've never asked you this before. We've been friends for a long time, maybe 10 years, something like that. What is the deal with your last name, Derrick?
It's actually my full last name is Derrick Shanian. So I basically just took the Shanian out and just left the Derrick. And my first name is not really Kevin. It's Kayvon, but it's difficult for people to pronounce. So every time I introduce myself and say, hi, this is Kayvon, they go, what, Kevin? I go, yeah, that's fine. Kevin is fine. So it doesn't really matter, but my legal name is Kayvon. It's not Kevin, but my stage name, per se, is Kevin Derrick. So you can call me anything you want. I don't care.
Okay, got it. Now, I know you've done a lot of interviews and you've shared your passion for both movies and martial arts. Now, can you talk about how you decided to combine those two into the films and documentaries that you've made?
Right. I started martial arts a long time ago when I was a child, like 9 years old. My dad actually took me to the local YMCA and signed me up for, martial arts with my brother. And my brother didn't like it at all the first day. He said, this is not for me. And he left. But I took a liking to it. And so, I didn't want to do a sport that everybody else was doing. I kind of wanted to do something different. Not that there's anything wrong with, soccer, football, and all that stuff. I watched those things. But I just wanted to I gravitated towards sports that are one-on-one, not like team sports, just so that way you can't blame other people for your failure. If something goes wrong, it's you that did the mistake. So I kind of like martial arts. Then when I was going to school, I started a film production company. Just, doing commercials and music videos like that. And then one day I got hit by a guy named Dan Ivan. I don't know if you know who Dan Ivan is. He's pretty big in the martial arts world. Back then he was in the CID, I think it was called. It was like Criminal Investigation Division Army, something like that. And he's the guy who brought Fumio Demura over from Japan to the United States to start his martial arts. And for people who don't know who Fumio Demura is, he's the guy who did all the stunt work for Pat Morita and the Karate Kid. So basically, he was doing videos for Black Belt magazine, like instructional videos. And he didn't have a camera guy, so he hit me up and he said, hey, Kevin, do you want to do the camera work for all these videos I'm doing? So that's how I kind of got started doing videos for Black Belt magazine. They were doing instructional videos on how to and stuff like that. And then later on, I started doing my own stuff. I did a video that was called how to get into the show business using your martial arts skills. So for people who want to get into want to get into films, but they were martial artists. That video actually did pretty good. So, and then I did like series on kind of the same thing. I did how to get into acting, how to get your kids into acting and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I got involved into, doing films using martial arts, because there was an audience for it out there. So I just that's how I got my start doing videos for martial arts and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember seeing the Real Miyagi, uh, the life of Fumio Demura, and I thought it was very poignant. I thought what you captured was very honest and something where it was just really about him discussing his love for martial arts and his contribution, and how
Right,
all the interviews you captured were so um, they were in such awe and, and
right,
inspiration for
right,
what he
right,
has contributed. You know,
right.
so I'd like to know, what was your approach in making that documentary? Why was that important to you?
I like to do documentaries on people who have kind of changed my life in a way. Sensei Fumidera was one of my first instructors. So when I started in YMCA, the instructor that was teaching there, his name was Dennis Strong. He passed away a couple of years ago, but he was studying under Fumio Demura. So whenever we had to do the test and for black belt testing, we would go down to the main dojo, which was in Santa Ana. And so I got familiar with Sensei, and then I started doing research on Sensei, and I found out, he's involved in, doing a lot of stunt work for movies. He did stuff for that movie that was Sean Connery that was in Rising Sun. He did a whole bunch of things. So then, this is actually a long story. Do you want me to get into how I got to do it? I was doing a documentary called Empty Hand, which was about 5 kids about their journey from Mission Viejo to winning the national championships in Florida. And then when I was in Florida, I ran into Sensei Demura, and that was like 20 years after I had stopped going to karate. So I hadn't seen him for 20 years. So we ended up going to dinner, and then I basically looked at him and I said, Sensei, I've been wanting to do martial arts film on your life for the longest time. And he just basically looked over to me and said, you better do it soon because I don't know how much time I have left. I think back then he was like 70 something, so he just wanted to get that done. So basically, I called my producing partner Oscar, and we got started. That's how I started doing that film.
Oh, and you do all of this under your banner of Love Project Films, and to me, the name, it kind of feels self-explanatory, but it's an interesting name for a production company. I mean, can you share why you chose that name instead of something like martial arts films or kick butt films? Everything you do is martial arts related.
Right. Well, we just don't want to focus on martial arts. We want to do other stuff, but the idea behind it is, as you get older, you want to do stuff that makes you. I mean, I don't do films because of how much money I'm going to make and all this stuff. You want to do films that you enjoy doing. And it's films that we love producing, and that's where that name came from. We love doing these projects, It's basically as simple as the title, as you said,
And what is it like working with a producing partner, Oscar?
Oh my God, Oscar, I want to just strangle that guy. Oh my God. No, just kidding. He's the nicest guy. It's when you get into business with someone, it's kind of like having a marriage partner. You want to find someone that's the opposite of you. Like, I'm good at doing a certain things, but I'm not good at doing other stuff. Oscar is good at doing other stuff that I'm not good at doing. So I think we make a perfect match. I've known him for 20 years, and I completely trust him.
Oh, I completely understand. You want to fill in your weaknesses.
Exactly. Oscar has an acting background. He studied acting, so he's really good in front of people. He's good at like doing stuff like this. He's doing, but I'm not good at being in front of the camera. So I'm good at being, behind the camera. So he fills in all the stuff that I'm not good at. So we make a perfect match.
Now I want to get into some of your early martial arts films. Let's take it back to when you were age 20 and you were producing your first movie. And that was The Final Incident. And this is back before the internet was even around. And you also did The Ultimate Game, The Trap. I mean, how did you get started with all of that?
Oh my God. Let me think. 20 years ago. Okay. So um, first of all, The Trap wasn't a martial arts. It was like a suspense thriller. And so was The Final Incident. That was a thriller. The only one that was a martial arts was The Ultimate Game. So basically, we were going to film school. That was early 1990s. And then there was a theater, Lemley in Santa Monica, that started showing a lot of films that were made in Iran. And all of them were like packed. All the screenings were packed, and you would see like lines all over the place. So I went to the screening with one of my friends, which happened to be an Iranian that was going to the same film school I was. And then I told him, dude, why don't we make a film for this audience? Everyone, it seems like everyone is, lacking this the Persian market. Let's make something for the Persians. He said, okay, that sounds good. So we started writing a script with one of my other friends. So basically, four of us from the film school got together and we wrote the script. We shot it, and it took a long time. But the thing is, we didn't have that much money, so we shot it on Super 8. We went to Super 8 Sound, and they gave us a really nice camera. Wow. It was this like state of the art Super 8 with sound and all that stuff. So we shot the whole thing with Super 8. We shot it, we developed it, and then we're trying to figure out how to edit it. Back then, 20 years ago, you didn't have like non-linear stuff to transfer and edit.
You had to do it on flatbed, right?
Flatbed, that's what it was. Or VHS was around. So what you can do is transfer the footage, put it on VHS, and then you can edit it on VHS. So I went to Best Buy and I bought 2 VHS machines. So we had transferred all the stuff from Super 8 to VHS. And then we had a master that was with edge code numbers on 1 inch, just in case we go online and want to do that stuff. So basically, I edited the whole thing with finger. You play, pause, record, play, pause, record. So I did the whole thing like that, and then we wrote down the numbers, and then we took it to the online place, and then they edited on the 1 inch. And then we had to show it in the theater. We actually wanted to show it in the same theater in Santa Monica that all the other films were shown at. So we transferred the 1 inch to 16 millimeter. I don't think anyone has ever done that, but we did. So because we didn't have any money. So basically we showed it, there was a day, like back then, before you show your film, a week prior, you would invite all the critics to come and watch the film. So we invited all the critics from like LA Times, LA Weekly, all the publications. They came and watched it, and they were really confused because you had the film grains, and at the same time you had the video dropouts on the screen, and they just couldn't figure out what the hell we shot it in. So basically, I told them I made up something. I said, we shot it on short ends because we didn't have any money, but the end result looked really bad. I mean, it was kind of murky looking, and it didn't come out the way we hoped. And the reviews were pretty bad. I mean, LA Times, when it came out, it was completely bad. And I said, oh my God, we lost all of our money. And we ended up using all of our money. We didn't go to the investors because this was my first film and I didn't have any credit. So then the other thing was, when we were shooting the film, my buddy and I got into it because I don't remember what it was. He got upset because we did something on the set, and I don't remember. So he basically packed his bag and left. So we had 3 more scenes to shoot in that film. But the bad thing was that the script was written in Farsi. Oh, and I speak Farsi, but I can't read Farsi because I've been here most of my life. And I said, oh my God, what the hell are we going to do? Because I didn't have any money to get a director. So I said, okay, I'm gonna give it my best shot, and I'm gonna direct this thing. So I went to my mom and I said, Mom, can you read this script? And so she read the script, and as she was reading it, I wrote it down in English. So then I ended up doing those 3 scenes. It was only 3 scenes. And then when the reviews came out, they basically said, one of the reviewers, that's where I saw like a glimmer of hope for me as a director. it said basically the whole film is garbage, other than a few scenes, and those were the few scenes that I had done.
Wow.
And basically he said, it was a guy from Village Voice, and he said it was emotionally gripping and truly frightening. And I said, oh my God, I might, maybe I'm onto something here. So that was the final incident. And then it took me a long time to get over that failure, not because what I have done, what we had done, and like as a group. So I started working for other people, doing like lighting and DP and stuff like that. And then one day my friend Jack, we went to high school together here in El Toro. And then we went to the same film school, and he was also in martial arts. He went to the same school I did here. And he told me, hey, Kevin, I think it's time to do a martial arts film. And I said, okay, sounds good. Where are we going to get the money? He said, I talked to this distribution company. They're looking for martial art films. They can sell the movie before we even shoot it. They can sell it just by showing a trailer. That's how it used to work back then. You show a trailer to the distribution company and they sell all the international rights, and then they give you the money and then you start shooting.
Yeah, they pre-sell everything.
They pre-sell, right? I mean, even they still do that now, but it was more back then because the market wasn't saturated. So basically, we ended up getting a little bit of money. We didn't get the whole thing. We ended up, I pitched in, Jack pitched in, and we decided to do a martial arts film. And since we weren't writers, so we ended up going in kind of the same theme as Enter the Dragon and Mortal Kombat kind of thing. So, and I don't remember if you remember back then, there wasn't, the only way you can cast the movie is by putting an ad in Dramalog. But that was like the only place that you can tell either it was that or you had to get an agent to get the actors for you. But since we weren't union, we just had to put it in Dramalog. So we went and placed an ad in Dramalog. And then the day came that we had to go and do the, do the auditioning. So I rented a place out in LA, and then I get there like an hour early, and then I look around and I said, who are all these people here? There were people out in the garden doing like martial art jumps and breaking boards and doing nunchucks and all that stuff. And I tell Jack, oh my God, did we have to do it in the same day that these guys are doing a tournament? So it was hundreds and hundreds of people. So I went to one of the guys and I said, well, is there a tournament or something going on? He said, no, dude, they're doing a martial arts movie and they're looking for actors. And I go, oh my God. He said, if you want to go wait in line, you got to go all the way behind that building. So we go in there and...
Wait, that wasn't for your movie?
That was for our movie. That was for our movie. So he's basically telling me if you want to be in line, you got to go wrap around all the way in the building. So we go in there and we didn't have enough time to audition all these people because there were hundreds of people. I mean, I thought maybe we were going to get like 20 people. Now we have like 400 or 500 people. So we didn't have that much time to spend with these people. It was like a couple of minutes, for each one. We would just ask them, the general thing, and they would show their ability and stuff like that. And then this guy comes in and he says, I need a volunteer. In order for me to show my martial arts ability, I need a volunteer. So me being, I said, sure, I'll volunteer for you. So I go stand right in front of him and he said, okay, I'm going to show you how to do perfect control. I said, okay, great. He said, but you got to put your hands behind your back. So I put my hand behind my back and he gets ready to wind up and he goes, boom, and hits me right as hard as he could in the stomach. And I fall down and I'm thinking, what the? So anyways, that was like the last time I volunteered for anything. So we ended up doing all the auditions. We did the auditions. We shot the whole thing in like 6 months and we were able to deliver the film in 1 year. And our distribution guy ended up selling it all over. He sent it. He sold it. I don't know if you remember, but Blockbuster, Hollywood Videos.
I remember
That
you
was
told me
like,
the story. You told me the story.
yeah,
You
that
were
was
saying
like,
that there was no money. It wasn't selling, even though you'd walk in a Blockbuster and you'd see a standee with a whole bunch of DVDs there.
that's correct. That's
A lot of
correct.
times they're empty, right? Because that means people were renting them.
That's correct. That's correct. And there was like on every shelf, I went and took a picture back then. We had like 60 titles. And I don't know if you remember back then, VHS and DVDs, they weren't like $10, $20. They were selling it for like $70, $80 to Blockbuster and Hollywood Videos. And when you do the math, just Hollywood Videos was 3,000 stores. Blockbuster was 6,000 stores. So when you do the math, they made like, $3-4 million off of that movie, but we didn't see any of that. We completely got screwed on that deal. But anyways, that was a learning lesson. But anyway, we were able to deliver, and that was basically the second.
All you got paid on was the production. That's it.
It was nothing. It was nothing. What we got paid was nothing, and then we got a upfront fee for the DVD rights. And if you calculate that with all the hours that we spend in the movie, it's basically less than working at McDonald's. But anyways, you hope that what you learned you can put towards your next project. So the next project that we did, the Trap, I did it with my other friend Sam. I don't know if you met him or not. The guy who did Travel Ban. We went to the same school, right? So again, he comes to me and he says, "Oh, Kevin, I want to do a thriller. I written the script." He wrote the script in 1 week. He finished the script in 1 week, and it was pretty decent. So he wrote the script, and then we ended up casting. That took a couple of weeks. He went and rehearsed with them. And then he said, "I want to shoot it in Big Bear." So we basically went in Big Bear. We rented the cabin. We did everything. We shot. It's funny that it took him 7 days to write it. It took us 7 days to shoot it. And we only spent $7,000 on the whole thing.
That was your lucky number, 7 then.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a pretty fast turnaround. We finished it pretty fast. And we got it sold worldwide. Because back then, there wasn't that much demand for like thrillers and stuff. So basically, whatever you made sold. And did you
make your money on that one at least, or did
we did. We made our money, and we made much more on that. We got lucky. We got one girl. Her name is Brooke Lyons. That was her first film, but now she's doing pretty good. She has her own series and all that stuff. So if you look her up, she's a recognizable face, and she went on to do some great stuff. So that was it. That was the first 3 films I did. And even with the Ultimate Game, the guy that was in there, Andre McCoy, he went on to do the stunts for Morpheus. He did Morpheus the Matrix.
Oh,
he was the guy who did the stunts. And then there was another girl that we used, Melissa Barker, I think her name was. She's doing really good. She's doing stunts for like Star Wars, CSI, Last Airbender. So we catapulted a lot of people in the martial arts industry, to go on and do their own things. So those were my 3 first films.
Well, I'm sure you learned a lot in that process.
Definitely. I would love to do it again.
And I know you started to shift into producing and directing martial arts documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned Empty Hands, with about those kids.
Right.
Why did you start to make that shift?
We were just hanging out with Oscar one day, and I told him, "Listen, I want to do something on karate again. I love karate, and I want to, do something, because there's really not a karate documentary out there. I haven't seen a documentary since the 70s. The only one I remember that was done in the 70s was Warrior Within. I don't know if you've seen that documentary. That was the only thing. So I said I want to do something on karate, and he wanted to do something on kids. And then we came up with Karate Kids. I take my karate and your kids, and we put them together. So anyways, I went to the dojo that I was that my son was going to, Japan Karate Federation. They're here in Mission Viejo. Great people there. They're basically my second family. They're very nice people. So I hit up 5 of the kids that were going to Japan Karate Federation, and I asked them, "Hey, what if we follow you guys through your journey from becoming a local champion to national championships?" And that's what we did. I followed them for a couple of years, and that's basically was my first documentary that I did, and it was both of my passions coming together as a filmmaker and a filmmaker and a karate person.
Was that difficult in terms of the footage you had to capture? Because
Oh
you're
my
kind of
God.
looking for the story within each person, right? I mean, it's different than having a script written for a narrative film
Oh my God, you're
versus going in to just capture. I mean, what was your process? I mean, your first documentary.
Since I really didn't know that much about documentaries, I just figured let me take these 5 students, very good people. I love them. They're all nice people. And just follow them and see if I can build something interesting. But when you're doing a documentary, you need to go interview them first and figure out whether their life is interesting, if there's any conflicts in their life and stuff. But since it was my first documentary, I didn't really do that much, research. But it ended up being a decent documentary. It's kind of like uplifting for people who want to get involved in martial arts and stuff like that. Um, I'm sorry, I just tuned out. I got a text and I started looking at my phone. Sorry about that. Let me put this down and put this somewhere else. Here we go. Okay.
That's all right.
Yeah, so basically that's how I got started in Empty Hand. I just wanted to do something on martial arts with kids. And I think it ended up being a decent documentary. And actually, Doc NYC, the Academy accredited film festival, showed that we had a premiere there up in New York, and we had a pretty good, decent turnout in New York. And my career in documentaries kind of started from doing Empty Hand.
But was it difficult to find the characters to follow? Because like when I did a documentary in a hospital, I mean, I interviewed 50 people, but then ended up only following maybe like 8 of them
Right,
in the end. But I
right,
had to go through all of that to
right.
mine and find out
Exactly.
which personalities had room to grow.
Exactly.
You know,
That's exactly it. The problem with me is since I came from this martial arts school and I knew all these kids, originally I ended up following 8 of them. And I got to know their parents and all that stuff. And then once I started following them, I realized only 4 of them are interesting enough to pull the whole story because they have a little bit of conflict. So I focused more on those 4 people, but I didn't have the heart to tell the other 4, hey, I'm not going to use you in the documentary. It's hard for me to, because they're such nice people. So I ended up just, showing them, highlighting their skills a little bit. I didn't want them to be, left out. But yeah, you're right. You have to go with the people that are going to pull your story, that they have some conflicts. And even one thing that I did is these 5 people that we followed, they all had like competition from Hawaii, from other states. So I went and interviewed all those people, and I realized, oh my God, these people have a lot of conflicts. This one person, the dad has 3 jobs just to be able to afford her to go to the nationals and compete. And I'm thinking, this should have been my story right here, but at the same time, I can't leave these 4 kids because I have an obligation to these 4 kids. So that documentary just made me realize what I need to do, how I need to do my next documentary. Basically, you need to go interview the people before you start doing a documentary and find out what the conflicts are, and if there's enough conflict for people to be able to watch the documentary. But I'm not the kind of person that would make a documentary and bring false narrative to the story, because I see a lot of films that they're made up. All the conflicts are made up. I don't want to do
how
that.
can you tell though? that they're
Well,
made up. It's just
doing research afterwards. Like if you research on them, you realize, I mean, look at all these reality shows. People think that that's actually reality, but it's not reality. It's scripted television.
right,
Just
right.
just to give you an idea, we had done a pilot on this, and this one idea that I had. So we go pitch it to this one network, and this was the first time that I'm pitching something to them, and they say, "Wow, we love this idea. This is great. What's going to be the next other episodes that are coming?" And this was like in the early 90s, so I didn't know how this whole reality worked. And I said, "I don't know. This is a reality. We're just going to have to shoot and see what comes up." He said, "No, that's not how it works. You have to tell me what we're going to see in the first season, what we're going to see in the second season, and third season." So it just kind of made me think that everything that you guys are seeing, it's all made up. The Kardashian side, everything is made up. So, and that's not what I want to do. I want to, in my documentaries, I want to be real with people. I want to tell them this is how it actually is. So
You wanted the truth.
the truth, exactly.
You wanted them to be genuine.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. I used to know an editor who was on the Osbourne TV show, and yeah, he said there was so much footage he would have to edit, but yeah, they would be guided and say, okay, you guys go over here and do this today, or
Right.
argue about this, and let's create
Right.
something here, some conflict here, so
Right.
they have to engage the audience that way. So
That's true. That's true. I mean, it's all about, to them, it's all about making money. And they got to sell advertisements, so they have to do what they have to do to keep it interesting. I mean, my daughter loves the Kardashians. And whenever she watches any kind of reality show, and I tell them, this is made up, right? She goes, "Don't tell me. I don't want to know. I don't care. Let me just watch what I want to watch." So
that's one thing I really like about you, Kevin, because I know where your heart is, why you make the films that you make, and
thank you.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Real Miyagi now. This
Sure.
documentary. I think your first one that went onto Netflix, I believe.
That was the first one. So basically, with Netflix, they want to have a subject that is popular, that there's a lot of following. So I had to somehow make the connection with Sensei, like make it more about the Karate Kid films than Sensei to be able to sell it. Because Sensei is famous, Sensei is a nice person. Everyone loves Sensei Demura.
But only in the martial arts community.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Right.
And a lot of people have tried doing a martial arts film, and they're not successful in selling it in like platforms like this. So I had to, have another angle. I mean, Sensei is behind the Karate Kid films. So
that's why you called it the Real Miyagi.
The Real Miyagi, because, and also when you look at the poster with the crane stance, you can immediately put two and two together and say, hey, this is the Karate Kid and this is the Japanese. Oh, who's this guy? And also just that the kid that's doing this, that's my son. I had him do that pose in the backyard. He said, "Dad, why am I doing this pose? What am I doing here?" I said, "I'm trying to do this for the poster." He was like 12 years old, he didn't know what the hell's going on. So he did the pose, and I took the picture and I put it on there. And then now he's really proud of that image. Like whenever he meets something, he says, "Hey, look, I'm on this poster. This on Netflix and all that stuff." But anyways,
yeah, actually, I think it was really smart that you did that and you took their suggestion. And I remember a clip in the documentary where Pat Morita, who plays Mr. Miyagi, says that Sensei Demura had a way of speaking, and he emulated that for his role in the movie.
Right.
So there is definitely a connection there. So you're not just putting a title without that connection. So I thought that was very smart.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, you have to, because the audience, their first impression is the poster. I mean, for me, when I go look on Netflix, my decision comes from the poster. That's like the first thing you see. And then you click on it and you see who the actors are. And if you like the actors, you watch the film. So I try to, add a little bit of that. And I think it's doing pretty good. I mean, it's been on there for 4 years. Netflix usually has a contract for 3 years. So we're on there for 4 years, and it's getting ready to renew. So we'll see if they renew it or not. But it's doing really good. It's doing. I'm happy for Sensei, because now there's like millions and millions of people who didn't know Sensei now know Sensei. So I think what I wanted to accomplish, I did. I think, and I'm proud that, you know. Again, you know, you want to do a documentary on subjects that you love, and I really, Sensei has had, you know, a lot of influence on my life, and I just wanted to put him out there so other people get to know who Sensei is and what he's done.
And what was it like, you know, approaching the interview subjects for your documentary? I mean, you have Dolph Lundgren, you have Steven Seagal. I mean, they have handlers, you know. So how did you break through to get to them?
Okay, when you're doing a documentary on a subject and you hit up the person or you hit up their agent, and what I found out is, if you want to hit up someone, the best person to hit up are the managers. You don't want to hit up the agents, because the agents basically want to make money, and there's no money in doing a documentary, so they wouldn't pass the information along. But managers, depending on who they are, most likely will send it to the person. So if you want to hit somebody up, hit the managers. And when the person gets the email, they're not really doing it for me. I mean, I'm just a filmmaker. Why would they do it for me? They do it for Sensei. So we hit up Dolph Lundgren's manager, and she was very nice. And she said, sure, Dolph Lundgren would love to do it, because Sensei Demura has influenced his life, because when he was back in his country, when he used to get the Black Belt magazine, he used to have Sensei in the front, and he used to open it and imitate and all that stuff. So in terms of approaching them, you just have to be respectful. I mean, they're just like any other person. Some of them have big egos, but Dolph Lundgren was the nicest person. We went to his house. He had a home in Venice.
That's funny, because his characters that he plays, I wouldn't think that, you know, but I guess that's why he's so convincing, you know.
Right.
Like in the Rocky movies and all.
Right. You know? Right. He is the one of the nicest people in the industry. Basically, we went to his house, and then on the day that we were there, he was getting ready to do like a workout video. And then he comes out with his robe. He's wearing his robe. He kind of looks like Hugh Hefner. And then when he comes out of the door, there's like a couple of female assistants following him, exactly like Hugh Hefner. So he comes and says, oh, hey, Kevin, let me know, what do you want me to say? What is this about? And all that stuff. So I told him, yeah, it's about Sensei Demura. He did a film with you and all that stuff. He wasn't there, but, you know, his people, his students were in your film. And outside, he said, yeah, great. And then he said, when I sit down, let me tell you everything that I already know. And then you can interrupt me anytime and ask me, you know, other questions and stuff like that. So he went on for like 10 minutes, and he said basically everything that was in his heart he wanted to say. And then I just asked him, you know, like 4 or 5 other questions, and that was it. Basically, that was it. But with Steven Seagal was completely opposite. I appreciate Steven Seagal for giving us the time to do the interview. I mean, that was very nice of him. But in terms of talking about that day, I'd rather not talk about that day. That's it. So
I hear you.
Next question.
And then, so research. Let's get into that. You know, I mean, what's your approach when you're researching a documentary, and you know, the different avenues or storylines that you can take to it, or is it something, because while you're capturing interviews, then you're readjusting as you're going along, or do you know in advance exactly what the overarching journey is going to be?
Right. Very good question. Before I go in, I have a list of questions, because when you do documentary, you have segments like the early years, this year's, that year's, and all that stuff. So I have a standard question that I ask everyone, because then that way, when you have a segment in the documentary that is overlapping with other people talking about the same thing, it's more interesting rather than just watching one person tell the whole story. So I have my basic, let's say 10 questions. And then I go on beforehand, like I spend like a couple hours and I go on YouTube and I just listen to other interviews that they've done, see if they're, how, first of all, find out how much they know about my character. And then the second thing is whether they're upgoing, are they monotone? Do I have to say something to make him angry to say what they want to say? I don't know. You just have to put all that stuff down. And also, I don't have a good memory, so I end up writing everything down because once I start interviewing them, I always tend to forget and then I look down on my paper. But it's different. With every person, it's different. Like we have some celebrities that they have such big egos that, you know, when I ask them a question about our subject, somehow they turn it around and talk about themselves. And then I'm thinking like, what? How am I going to use what you're talking about yourself in my documentary? So then I say, okay, maybe that's like one question that they start talking about themselves. So I ask him another question and he starts again talking about himself. And then, so this goes on for like an hour and a half. So you have people like that that just like to talk about themselves. And then you have the opposite, which we had Billy Blanks. Billy Blanks is the best. I mean, you can talk about a car, like what kind of car you drive. And then he knows the process. So he turns around what the car is about into your subject. It's amazing. Right. I mean, you can talk about what kind of food you eat. Oh my God, I think, you know, Sensei Demar's favorite food was sushi. So then you have those kind of people. And then you have some people who are a little bit older, like in their 70s and beyond, that, you know, have worked with the person for so long. They know the person really good, but when you ask them the question about this and that, they tune out and they don't recollect, they don't remember anything. It's like all over the place. And then, but the only thing that I do is I ask him the standard questions in the beginning, but I save my hard-hitting questions towards the end. Like, you know, the question about my subject that if I ask him, it's going to make him angry or act a certain way. So I make sure the beginning 10 questions, for example, they're all kosher, everything is good. And then the last question, I know it's going to piss them off. But I ask it anyways because it's my job and I have to get it out of them. So depending on how they react to that question, if they get angry and then, you know, they go somewhere else and I can feel their heart like beating fast and they're just trying to figure out how to work around that question, then I don't want to piss them off. I stop it and I ask them a question about themselves. Because I don't want to leave the interview having them be pissed about me and what I'm trying to do. I don't know. If they're into the entertainment industry, they understand that that's how it works and they do answer the question. Some of them try to, like, you know, fight back and tell me something else. But for the most part, you know, it happened a couple of times that I asked a person a certain question, like especially for this Pat Morita video. That if they got into a mood that I didn't want to end with that note, so I asked them something about themselves, and then they start whining back and tell me some good stuff, and then thank you so much, and then I leave. That's basically how it works. But there is never one standard way to interview one person. Everyone's different.
Yeah, in my experience, I've always had a standard set of questions, but it veers off based on what their responses are because it becomes more specific to them.
Right.
I'm the same way. I leave all the tough questions at the end because if they decide to, like, they say, I don't want to be a part of this, well, you've gotten everything else already. And the last one it becomes optional.
Then. Right. That's true. That's true.
So besides some of your interview challenges, like what is actually your biggest obstacle when you're making a documentary movie?
Biggest obstacle. Give me a second to. Okay, the biggest obstacle, I guess, is getting these interviews. I mean, because these celebrities, I mean, we're not paying them top dollar, so they're doing it because they love the subject. And the only thing that we have to do is wait until they have an open, day on their calendar that they can fit us in. So basically, you can start a documentary and then talk to this certain actor, and they're going to give you a day that's like 6 months down the line. So you got to wait for 6 months. That's like the biggest obstacle. The second biggest obstacle is the editing. Because when you go into a documentary, you have a vision, like this is how it's going to be laid out. And then when you start doing the interviews, they talk about like different things, and then you go, oh, why don't I go this way? Why don't I go that way? So you start shooting more. And then what happens in that process, now you have 200 hours of footage, and you're trying to cut it down to like 90 minutes. And that's the biggest thing, is cutting down all that footage into 90 minutes. And I heard
that's literally what you're telling me, 200 hours. I mean, I've been there, done that, and 200 hours down to 90 minutes is really 1/200th.
That's true.
Footage you captured.
That's true. And that's true. That's true. It's like feature films. When you do feature film, you have take 1, take 2, take 3, and you're picking the best out of those takes and putting it in there. But with documentaries, there's no such thing as take 1, take 2, take 3. It's like take 200, and you're trying to put all this mishmash stuff and tell a coherent story, and that's the hardest thing. And one director, I don't remember his name, Perskoff or something like that, and I was watching his interview, and he said, as a documentary filmmaker, we're not garbage collectors, you know?
Yeah, that Werner Herzog.
Yeah. He said, I feel nauseous when people tell me they have 300 hours of footage and they're trying to get it down to 90 minutes, which is true. I mean, the less you shoot, the less time it's going to take to edit it. Like, for example, that other documentary I did with my friend, Travel Ban, we didn't shoot that much, and we just, it didn't take me that long. It took me 3 months to put together. But at the same time, you don't know what treasures you can find in the garbage. So that's
you did that in 3 months?
That one I did in 3 months. Yes.
For post-production, you did it in 3 months.
Yes.
Fast.
I don't know what it is with the projects I do with Sam. It ends up being really quick. That travel ban that we did in 7 days, $7,000, and that one didn't take that long either. That one I would say was within the 3-4 months period. So I don't know whether he doesn't like to shoot that much or what it is, but yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, we didn't really shoot that much. I think we had like total of 50 hours. So taking 50 hours to 90 minutes is not that hard, but 300 to 90 minutes, that's kind of hard.
Well, I mean, yeah, because my next question was, how long does it really take for you to make your documentaries on average? Okay, on average, because you have to exclude working with Sam, because that's an anomaly.
Oh yeah, that's not. But a general overview of documentaries. I mean, it's not just with me; it's with everyone. Most people who do a documentary, it's all a passion project. So you hope that it takes like 1 year, but honestly, it doesn't. It takes anywhere from a year to 3 years. So you have to make sure that subject, there's enough interest out there that the time you're spending on, somehow you're going to benefit from it. So yeah, I would say anywhere from 1 year to 3 years. But that's, again, I end up doing most of the stuff myself. I end up editing it and, stuff. I mean, I do have other people in our crew, but majority of the stuff is on me because, and when I have to do everything, I to be honest, I don't trust people. That's my nature, so I end up doing most of the stuff myself. And if I do it myself, it takes a long time. It takes like 3 years. So yeah, I would say up to 3 years, 1 to 3 years.
You share with me that on average, documentaries, only about 5% of documentaries make a profit.
Right.
So how have you done it different than what everybody else's approach?
Well, what you have to do, the first thing is it has to be a subject that that at least millions of people know about. If it doesn't, then how are you gonna like places like Netflix, Amazon, and all these places? They want to know that your subject is popular, because if it's not popular and not many people are thinking about it, talking about it, what's the purpose of them having it on Netflix? No one's going to watch it. So you got to make sure the topic that you have is interesting, and there's a lot of following in that topic. But that's why I connected Fumia Demara to the Karate Kid, because there's a lot of following with the Karate Kid films. And that's what I've done with the Pat Morita. You really don't need to put Pat Morita. Everyone knows Pat Morita. So.
All right. Well, yeah, that was really my next question, determining your audience. But it sounds like you work with the distribution companies to figure that out.
Right. I also, we had, with my partner Sam, we opened up a distribution company called Melrose Films that we did for a couple of years. We were acquiring films and going to AFM and trying to sell it. So if anyone's trying to get into filmmaking, I would say that's like one of the most important things that any filmmaker needs to do. Once you go in there, you'll realize that the buyers that come in, what they're asking for and what they need. And if you're into this business trying to make money, that's the best place to go and learn from, because you get it firsthand from the distribution companies, that they come in, the buyers that come in what they're looking for, and you go make them what they need.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know what AFM is, it's the American Film Market, and it takes place every year in Santa Monica.
Right.
Around November.
Right.
And so are you open to talking about how much you get from Netflix when you sign a distribution deal with them, and what's involved with the deliverables that they require?
My distribution company said not to say anything about how much we made, but basically Netflix has a 3-year contract and they pay you quarterly. So whatever amount is, let's say it's $1 million, and they get paid quarterly through 3 years. And then at the end of the 3 years, Netflix used to renew back then when there weren't that many titles, but right now, since the market is oversaturated with so many titles, they don't tend to renew anything unless it's really popular. But given what's going on right now with the COVID-19, we don't know. Maybe they might renew it, they might not. But it's generally for like 3 years.
So it sounds like they're just running through titles. Once they have it for 3 years, they won't bring it back. They'll just have a new crop of.
Right, exactly. I mean, they probably think that if anyone is interested in that title, they had already seen it. Why should we keep it longer than we need to? We get a new title, which makes sense. So you hope that, every couple of years you can have a new title for them.
And can you talk about the deliverables then, at least, and what they require, what you have to do to finish for their needs?
Sure. Well, with the Real Miyagi, we ended up going with a distribution company called Odensai. Very nice people. They basically sent me a list of all the specs that we needed. We had to deliver the high res of the film, and then we had to do each layer separately. Like the dialogue was separate, the soundtrack was separate, and the music was separate, just in case they sell it to another country, they can take off the dialogue and put in the language of their own country, which that was distributed worldwide. I think Odin's Eye went and did subtitles for 30 different languages, but they ended up doing that. I didn't do that. So basically we delivered everything to the distribution company, and they ended up delivering it to Netflix. That's why Netflix doesn't want to deal with individuals. They want to go through a distribution company because they already know the process. They don't have to explain it to you. They don't even communicate with the regular person that emails Netflix, because they just don't want to go through all that stuff. So the best thing is just find a distribution company that has dealt with Netflix and just use them.
Oh, and that's why you created your own distribution company, so you can. Because you know how to do all the deliverables, so you're able to keep the fees as well, right?
Well, with the distribution company that was called Melrose Films, we just did that for 3 years. I wanted to go another route. I wanted to just see what distribution companies go through and how they sell the film. And it's just that process for me. It wasn't something I wanted to do. So that's why I teamed up with Oscar, and now we're doing a production company rather than distribution. But I have done all sorts of different things, anywhere from like from concept down to distribution. So so it's easy for me to know exactly where to go when it comes down to like making films and deliver it to a distribution company.
Okay. And I wanted to ask you about what's your marketing strategy for your films too? I mean, once you do get it up on Netflix, are they requiring you to promote anything like that?
Right. No, once you get it on Netflix, they don't require you to do anything, because Netflix right now, I think they have 183 million subscribers. So they do, if they feel like the film is good, they do their own marketing. But if you tend to go with another distribution company where, like Travel Ban, we went with Gravitas. Gravitas, they picked up the film and they basically put it all over the place. It's Amazon, it's everywhere you want to be, the film is there. But the only thing is they don't do any distribution, so it's up to us to do the distribution. What I found is the best thing is Facebook Boost is the best thing. Facebook Boost, basically you can go in and do your own category from ages to this, from that, and what countries you want to target. And that I found to be the best kind of promotion for any kind of film you're doing.
So low cost advertising.
Low cost, right. I mean, it depends. You can start with $100 if you have more money, do $1,000 and stuff like that. And you can reach millions of people. Like even with Real Miyagi, when we did, when it went on Netflix, I told them I want to have sole distribution of DVDs. So Odin's Eye ended up selling it other places, so we ended up just marketing the DVD. So I just basically went on Facebook and I did a Facebook boost, and we sold a lot of DVDs.
Now I want to get into the Irvine Film Festival.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it's amazing what you've done with it. I mean, that's not an easy task to run a film festival. And I know you've shared a few things with me regarding the number of submissions.
Right.
You told me recently that you have to watch 600 short films, and that's just the short film category.
Right.
And all the others.
Right.
What inspired you to start that festival?
Well, I don't know if you know, there's 15 to 20,000 films made by independent filmmakers per year. And out of those films, only 1% of them get any kind of distribution. So I just wanted a place for, I'm being a filmmaker myself, I just wanted a place for other filmmakers that they can showcase their work and, show it to an audience. We also have a category that's for K through 12, which is kindergarten through 12th grade. And, these kids, they go and make a film. They're 10 years old. They make these films like, a couple minutes long. And you should see their reaction when we show it on the big screen. They're just like, oh my God, this is so great. Just seeing the reaction on those kids makes me want to, expand this thing. So basically, I just did it for, the filmmakers, that they can show their work to the Orange County audience. I know there's Newport Beach Film Festival. They show their thing. Everyone always asks me, like, why did you make a film festival? There's Newport Beach Film Festival. Well, it's not like we're in competition with each other. It's like two different festivals. I show my things, they show their things. But it's just, I just love helping filmmakers, exhibit their work to people that, normally wouldn't see this kind of film, because people are not used to watching short films and stuff. You expose general audience into like short films. That's basically it. That's the reason I started. I wanted to start it like way early on in like 2007, but it's just I got into it with our films and stuff like that, and I got sidetracked, and then 2011 is finally when we decided to do the film festival.
And so, I mean, for some of the listeners who submit their films to festivals, I mean, what is the submission process really like? And do you accept screenplays as well?
Yeah, we do. The screenplays, I'm not in charge of the screenplays. There's another person in our company that he just takes over the screenplays because that's not my thing. But for the films, we have like 3-phase processes. We have screeners that go through everything and they give it a score from 1 to 10. And then based on those numbers, it progresses into the phase 2 where other viewers look at it and they give it a number. It goes into the phase 3. And then that's where we watch it, I watch it, Jack watches, and the other partners watch it. And then that's when we choose the official selection. And then once we chose the official selection, we have 5, I think, from 5 from each category, like, action, short films, comedy short films, and stuff like that. And those 5 goes to established judges that are working in the industry, and they pick their favorite, and then we award the best film.
And so what tips can you give to filmmakers to get into your festival?
People I see when they submit their film, they write a letter saying, oh, we didn't have any money, we had to do this, we had to do that. And then some people say we spent thousands of dollars doing these films, we got these A-list actors and all this stuff. That really doesn't matter whether how much money you spent or you didn't spend, because when you're showing the film, you can't really put like a graphic underneath when someone's watching your film and say, oh, I only spent this much money, please watch it, accordingly. It's just the most important thing is you got to be able to tell a story, and basically a coherent story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's all I can say. I mean, we have a lot of people who just submit a scene. It's just a scene. I mean, you look at that scene, you're just trying to figure out, okay, where's the beginning and how is the end?
It's a moment then.
Right, and then you have some people. One of the ones I can remember, I mean, it was unique, but it was 10 minutes of a person. It was in New York. It was a bag, I don't want to laugh at it, but it's just, I mean, you get all sorts of things. It was a grocery bag blowing in the wind for 10 minutes. That's basically what it was. And then another one I can remember, it was a guy making a kebab for 10 minutes. I mean, it was a shot of a kebab. I mean, okay, great. But if you would have showed me how you made the kebab and who ate the kebab, yeah. But so it just needs to be a coherent story. I mean, there's really not a magic to it. I mean, people have different ways of telling the story, but as long as you're able to tell that story, which seems to be the hardest thing. We really don't care what the budget is, how you were able to do it. It's just what we see is it gripping. That's it. There's really not a secret,
Well, it sounds like some filmmakers, they're trying to justify the amount of money, monetary value that they put into it that should equal story value, which is it's not. It doesn't correlate.
It doesn't. We got another one just last year, a guy that made a 10-minute film that he spent $1 million on it.
Wow.
$1 million. And I'm thinking, dude, if you would have given me $1 million, I would have done a feature. Why are you doing a short? But anyway, it was well done. It was an action film. It was well done. He did a great job. He also did a horror film he did a great job. It's just, some people, when you start watching a film, the guy knows what he's doing. And most of the time you watch a film, the first minute, this guy has no idea what he's doing. So it's very obvious the first minute to realize whether this guy knows or he doesn't know what he's doing. But all of us, we end up watching the whole thing. Me being a filmmaker, when I submit something to a film festival, I hope the person that's watching ends up watching the whole thing. I mean, I have asked people at Sundance and other places the same question. Are you guys watching the whole film? Personally, I don't know how it's humanly possible to watch 15 to 20,000 films. I, that would take a couple of years. I don't know how they do it.
The whole team. They have to have a whole team and the rating system, right? Which
Right, but you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of people to watch 15 to 20,000 films.
it could be very
But
subjective.
anyways, give them benefit of the doubt. They watch the whole thing, but we don't get that many films, and we do watch the whole thing. I watch the whole thing. Jack watches the whole thing. Other people that we have in there, they watch the whole thing. So I like to be, kind to filmmakers because I'm a filmmaker. They spend so much time on it. You have to watch the whole thing. Some people that they submit a 10-minute film, they spend, who knows, maybe 3 years of their life and money and savings doing this thing. The least I can do is watch the whole thing. So I do watch the whole thing. One thing that I can't stand is when I'm showing a film to someone, something I've created to someone, and instead of watching it, they stop and they talk to me and they ask me questions. Oh, how did you do this? Oh, why did you do this? Oh, I'm thinking, dude, just this period of time that you asked me this question, you missed like 6 months of my life right here.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's my pet peeve right there. It's just, please watch the whole thing, write it down, ask me the questions later. So,
I mean, it might be something where, because they feel that, they know you and they've always wanted to ask questions when they're sitting in a movie. Like, how did the filmmaker do that? Now they have a chance to actually ask the filmmaker.
Right.
But yeah, the good thing is at least they're asking you a question, which means they're engaged.
Right. No, I completely get it. When I'm home and I showing them to them on the monitor, I pause it and then I answer the question.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. I'm trying to be nice and kind to them so they don't get offended. But I love feedback. Feedback is the best thing. I would encourage any filmmaker, don't get upset. When you make a film, show it to a big audience. And don't get defensive when they're telling you, to change this, to change that. But if it's just like one person telling you to do something, I wouldn't take it too seriously. But if it's 20 people telling you the same thing, there's something wrong and you need to change it, So.
Yeah, I found that, there's some filmmakers who really want to, they make a film and they're so like hell-bent on getting awards.
Right.
Or just making it into Sundance. Right. Sometimes I ask myself, like, why is that? Because awards means recognition. That's the primary thing for me. And second is like it's exposure for the film. Right. But my focus when I make a film or a documentary, it's the audience. It's that one person who's going to sit there and watch it. How are they going to be transformed? And if I've done my job right, then it gets into a festival, then it can win awards.
Right.
That's like all secondary to me anyways.
Right.
So, but I mean, there's only a few questions left that I have for you. Sure. And I just want to ask you in terms of what's your approach to getting investors, for your projects? Do you do a pitch deck, business plan, budget?
Right. So, the first thing that I do is I make a business plan that's, I would say, like 10 to 20 pages that it basically talks about my subject and how I'm trying to promote this and who's going to be in it, which leading actor is going to be in it. And I send them that and have them read it. And then when they call me back and we talk, I ask them, the main thing I ask them is that, why do you want to invest in this movie? And if they end up telling me that, I've been saving for 10 years and my friends have told me that, filmmaking, investing your money into film is the best way to go, I back out immediately. I don't want anyone that has a savings and they think by investing in a movie they're going to make millions. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But investing in a film, as you know, is the riskiest thing. I want someone that loves my subject and has enough money that if they're investing a portion of their money, and it's not coming from their life savings, Most of the time, that I've gotten the investor, they made a lot of money, but it's just my approach is I want to find someone that loves the subject, loves what I'm doing, and loves my point of view, you know, my passion.
But your presentation, like what are the
Yeah, right. No, so the
kind of
most
document?
important, like, okay, when someone invests in a documentary, usually they end up coming like the tail end of it. Like they want to know where you're at in the documentary. Usually when I tell them I'm in post-production or almost done, that's when they want to come in because they know it's almost done. It's going to get distributed. They're going to make their money back. But the same people, if they know that, you know, you just started shooting and all that, they know the process. They know it's going to take 3 years. I don't want to give them so much money and that my money is going to be, held up and all that stuff. So the 3 projects that I had done, all 3 of them have come at the tail end. And then the other thing.
So you essentially self-finance in the beginning.
Yeah, I do it. As I said, I do it because I want to do it. It's a subject that I want to. Like, for example, the Real Miyagi, when I'm scrolling down Netflix, I see my poster, I end up watching it because I like the subject, I like Sensei, and I'm proud of what I've done and got his message across. So I'm basically doing it for myself. So another thing that the distributors want to know is, can you get the job done? A lot of filmmakers, as you know, they start doing the project and it just loves something. It's very important for them to understand that you're capable of doing it and then you can get it done no matter what. Like, just a quick story I'll tell you is that I had a friend that was going to Iran and I told him, hey, there's a place down south where a lot of people live in caves and it's made by clay, it's done by clay and all that stuff. I said, if you end up going, can you just go there for a couple of days and shoot something for me and find the kid and ask him these questions and all that stuff. And I gave him like different scenarios. So he ends up going there and he finds a kid and he says, oh my God, I'm sorry, Kevin, I couldn't shoot more than an hour of footage because there was a big mountain I had to climb and all that stuff. And he's just, a little bit out of shape and all that stuff, so he didn't want to do the climb. So anyways, I didn't hear back from him for a long time, and then when he comes back here, he gives me an hour of footage. And I watched the hour of footage, and it took me a while. It took me like a couple of months to figure out I don't have a finished story here. So I went back with him to an area that kind of looked like where he was, but down in Mission Viejo with the rocks and all that stuff. I said, dude, I don't like when we shoot something and I can't get it finished. I need to finish it because in my mind, everything needs to be finished or I can't move forward. So we go out in Mission Viejo and I shot whatever I need. And then I end up doing a 5-minute short story just out of that kid and all the other stuff that I shoot here. And then I submit it to film festivals and it gets accepted in a major film festivals and they end up showing it. So my thing is, everything I start, I have to finish. And that's like the most important thing that the investors want to know. Even though they can't, sometimes, they know it's risky that you can't make money back, but they want to have their name on a project that's going somewhere, Majority of the investors is basically they just want to see their name, executive producer and all that stuff. Some of these people have so much money that it really doesn't matter to them whether they lose, a couple $100,000 and stuff like that. They just want to be proud that they have done a great film and they can talk about it to their friends and so on. Like, I did this film, I did that film. That's basically it.
Yeah, and it's in terms of like being able to finish it. I mean, because on larger budget movies, you have a completion bond, which ensures if something goes wrong, somebody steps in and finishes the job.
Right.
The small productions like documentaries, that's not the case. So, so I can understand why they have that. They take
right. There's not that many people, like I'm sure you know how to edit, you know how to shoot. There's not that many people who know how to shoot and edit and all that stuff. And that's one of the reasons that I started doing documentaries, because with features, you got to go out there and hustle and try to convince this investor, hey, give me $3 million. I need to do this thing. It's a little bit harder. I mean, it's possible, but I don't want to go out there and hustle and beg and all that for that money. But with documentaries like today, I can come up with a concept. I can start shooting it tomorrow. And I don't need to beg or kiss anyone's butt to, to start my documentary. But that's only for people who know how to shoot, who know how to do the lighting, who know how to do the sound, and I'm sure you know how to do it. So that's the reason I kind of geared towards documentaries.
Yeah, so you can just get the projects
Exactly.
started, rolling, and then invested later. So that's that's
Exactly.
your business model essentially. Yeah.
Right,
Production.
that's right. That's right. So for people who don't know how to shoot, who don't know how to edit, they can probably just find some people. They end up shooting it, and they go, "Oh my God, how am I going to get this done?" But in our case, as your case, that you know how to edit, there's not a problem. I edit it. I know where to go for the distribution, and it kind of works in my favor, So
Yeah, because my first feature documentary, I mean, that was funded up front, which was nice. So it was taken care of.
right,
But, yeah, I mean, but if you don't have, and it was partly because it was a client relationship involved, and they
right,
wanted to get their message out,
right,
which is different than
right,
it wasn't coming from me, it was coming on behalf of someone else to carry
right,
the message.
right.
Whereas for you, it's coming right from your heart, and then you're bringing
Exactly. And
yeah.
things are changing now. I mean, since I already established myself with the 4 documentaries, now it's a little bit different. Now I get hit up with people trying to give me money and give me ideas to do certain things, and I just want to pick the stuff that I like. I kind of tend to go towards things with the martial arts. People who are martial arts. I don't like anything that has to do with politics and all that. I don't want to get into politics. I don't really care what they're doing. I want to do things that I love. I love martial arts, mixed martial arts, and I think that's what I'm going to continue doing, is doing people who are into mixed martial arts, doing documentaries on those.
Yeah. So as we wrap up here, what's your next project you want to share with us?
Okay. So the one I'm working on, obviously, is Pat Morita. We're almost done with that. That took a long time too. That took 3 years. But at the same time, it's not really 3 years because I tend to do other projects on the side. But the overall, when you look at, it took us like 3 years because we're trying to get the interviews and stuff. So I'm done with that documentary right now. We're going through the legal process of, clearing the rights and all that stuff.
Yeah,
So,
where's the trailer? I've seen some clips, but I haven't seen the trailer.
That's the next thing I'm going to work on. I did a trailer, but I'm not really too happy with it. But once I'm done, I'll send it to you. You can check it out.
Okay.
But I think in the next few weeks that's when I'm going to start working on the trailer, and then we're going to head up, our distribution company to see if they can get the movie out there for us and see what happens. But in terms of the next project, I don't really like to say who it is until they end up signing the paperwork, and then I'll discuss it with you, because it kind of gets jinxed when I say who I'm working on and then it doesn't happen. So once it's 100%, I'll let you know what I'm working on.
Gotcha. And last question, Kevin. What's the best piece of advice that you can give to filmmakers?
Okay. For people who are going to film school, the best advice I can give you guys is don't go to film school. Save up your money and go get an internship in one of these companies, Lionsgate, Paramount, anywhere, and work from the mailroom all the way up. It's basically, people need to know that they can trust you and you can get the foundation from there. But if you want to go to film school, go to sorry, let me turn my phone off. But if you want to go to film school, I would go to the film school that you can make connections, like, USC, NYU, Chapman. Those are the best film schools. And the reason I know that, because being in the film festival, we get submissions from those of those colleges, and a lot of good stuff comes from Chapman. I know Chapman is just, for the past 10 years, they've been serious about film. But majority of the good stuff that I'm seeing is coming from Chapman. But, USC is good, NYU is good. The thing that I tell everyone that's going to film school is, I know everyone goes to film school thinking that, they're going to be the next best director and a big producer. Yeah, and I hope it works out for them. But the odds are you only have 1% chance of becoming the next big thing, because as you know, there's like hundreds of people in that class, and only one of them get to be really big. So my suggestion is, when you go to film school, make sure you're friends with everyone. You work on everyone's project. Basically, you give them your talent, your time, become friends with everyone. So when that one person becomes successful, hopefully you'll go on the ride with them, to whatever journey that they have. That's the best advice that I have. And don't let your ego get in the way. And I wish someone would have told me this when I was going to film school. But that's the doggone truth.
It's interesting you said, because you went to film school as well as I did. And I find it funny that nobody that I knew in film school is still a filmmaker.
Right.
I'm the only one. And
right.
How's your experience with your colleagues?
Okay. Only one person in our class ended up becoming really big. And he's from Iceland, and he ended up doing major films. But I lost touch with him for like 20 years. And it was kind of weird for me to, try to get in touch with him and say, hey, so-and-so, well, it's too late. But, we didn't have Facebook back then. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't have any way to get in touch with if you lost touch with someone. But nowadays, keep in communication with everyone that you went to school with. Majority of the people give up. I mean, they think film school, parents especially, they think when you go to film school, it's like going to law school. Okay, when you're done graduating, you're going to find a job. They don't realize that it's just the beginning of your problem. No one really knows that. And the kids don't know that either. So they end up going to all these big schools. They end up owing, $100,000, $200,000 when they come out. I want to become a director. Where do I go to? It's just very sad, and I see that all the time. The people that have succeeded are the people who've done side jobs. They've done either sound, they've done stunt work. So I have two friends that do stunt work, and they've been doing stunt work for a long time. Because they're into martial arts and stuff like that. And now they're transitioning into doing directing, and they're doing big films. Big films. One good example is the guy who did the stunt work for Keanu Reeves. He was a stunt guy in Matrix, and he became friends with Keanu Reeves, and then he started directing John Wick's. I have a couple other friends that are in the. So my advice is do sound, do set design, do things that people don't want to do. Get into the business. Establish your, the communication with people, become friends with them, and then once they trust you, and then start directing, then start producing. But if you're thinking that, I want to be the best, producer, director, your odds are going to be like 1-2%.
Yeah, that's like the stunt, either a stunt double or somebody who works on stunts with Chris Hemsworth,
right?
Who plays Thor. And then he directed his first movie, Extraction, and it's on Netflix, and it's like
there you go,
huge
there
hit.
you go, great example.
Yeah,
right. That was a good film. I watched it. It was so much action in there, so I was exhausted. I said, please cut back on the action just a little bit. Let me breathe and start over again. But yeah, that was a good movie. That was a really good movie.
Yeah, that was a fun ride.
Yeah.
So. Well, Kevin, thank you so much. And thank you for what you do. Your contribution to martial arts and to movies and to filmmakers with your film festival. I really appreciate it. I look up to you. I follow you all the time. I watch all of your films. You know that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And if anyone wants to get in touch with me,
yes. Please share your website, your social media handles.
Yeah, just Kevin Derrick. If they do Kevin Derrick search, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, I'm all over the place. So it's not going to be too hard for them to get in touch with me. I usually like to help upcoming filmmakers, whoever that needs any kind of help. I would love to help them. I help people all the time. So don't hesitate if you want to get in touch with me. I help you as much as I can.
Yeah, and Kevin's website is loveprojectfilms.com. We'll put all the links in the description below as well.
Thank you.
And that's about it.
Thank you. All right. Good luck. Thanks for having me.